This is a very important question to get right, because it was absolutely key for me. When our foundation first started up, it was focused on reproductive health. That was the main thing we did, because I thought, population growth in poor countries is the biggest problem they face. You've got to help mothers who want to limit family size have the tools and education to do that.
Pay attention, all you who are on the side of encouraging childbirth and growing families. Ladies and gentlemen, to those who stand against abortion and believe that children are a gift from God and should be welcomed into families and society with joy no matter what. Ladies and gentlemen, this is to you. And to everyone who loves Africa and stands against the idea of Africans being used as guinea pigs for the experiment of any drug or medicine, you need to hear this. This is what Bill Gates Foundation intends to do with Africa, starting with Kenya. Please listen. They have chosen Kenya as the first country in the whole world to experiment a newly developed contraceptive for preventing pregnancy. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, you heard me right. And guess who has given them his complete support, ladies and gentlemen? Yours truly, Kenya's President William Ruto. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bill Gates Foundation has dedicated $2.5 billion US starting from August 4th of this year to 2030 to developing women reproductive and health-related vaccines and drugs, particularly for women in low and middle-income countries, which actually mean women in Africa and all the way in India. On their official website, it is stated that their innovations will go to 5 critical and chronically underfunded areas. And those areas have been listed as gynecological and menstrual health, obstetric care, contraceptive innovation, sexually transmitted infections solutions, and maternal health solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, and they chose Kenya as the place they want to operate from. Now, from last year, when they settled in Kenya, they immediately made a request to the Kenyan government for a bunch of privileges and immunities for while they operate and experiment in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, the Kenyan government, President William Ruto, accepted those requests and gazetted those special privileges and immunities as requested. And guess what those privileges and immunities included? Ladies and gentlemen, this will blow your mind. It included immunity from legal actions against them and their staff. Illegal actions against their staff in respect of things done or omitted to be done in the course of the performance of the official duties. Listen to it again if you didn't catch it the first time, folks. The Gates Foundation settled in Kenya. And while they operate this so-called benevolent agenda in Kenya, they have demanded that their foreign staffs, their foreign workers working in the organization, should be granted immunity from being prosecuted in court for things they may do or forget to do while they perform their duty in producing these so-called women health medicines in Kenya. Think about it critically as a normal human being, ladies and gentlemen. When a foreigner comes to your country to sort of want to help you, but in the process of their saying they want to help you, they don't want you to bring them to court for whatever action they may do or may not do, even if it results in the loss of lives. Ladies and gentlemen, what kind of message does this immediately send to you? This is the absurdity of the entire story. And every day I understand the more reason the Kenyan youth wanted to remove the President Ruto, from office. The president of Kenya is seriously, ladies and gentlemen, seriously in bed with the Gates Foundation and with his Western partners. The same man who came into office preaching Pan-Africanism and Africa's right to be sovereign and respected at international summit has now become a champion for the West on what they want to do in East of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, this president actually granted the Gates Foundation the immunity, ladies and gentlemen. Thank God there are people who still love and stand for the ordinary people in society in Kenya. The Law Society of Kenya and civil society petitioners such as the Katiba Institute and Kituo Cha Sharia brought the issue to court, stating that the gazettement by the president was unlawful and unconstitutional, ladies and gentlemen. So, on 25th November last year, the High Court issued a conservatory order suspending the legal notice and prohibiting the foundation and its officers from enjoying these immunities pending the hearing, ladies and gentlemen. So as it stands now, there is hearing to be had concerning why they want those immunities. There are many medicines which they intend to roll out in the next 5 years. But this particular supposed contraceptive for women is said to prevent women or girls from becoming pregnant for 8 years. Let's go over that again, ladies and gentlemen. I said the Bill Gates Foundation has set aside 2.5 billion United States American dollars to champion the cause of producing a so-called newly developed contraceptive that's to be inserted into the private part of a woman or a young lady to prevent her from conceiving a baby for up to 8 years. My question is, if all of that is true, why Africa and why Kenya? Per reports of some websites, the rollout is to be done in Kenya and then Nigeria and then it goes to India. What is the similarity among these three countries, ladies and gentlemen? Kenya's population is currently 53.3 million. But in 2005, that was 10 years ago, Kenya's population was 35.7 million. In 10 years, it grew by more than 10 million, from 35 to 46 million in 2015. It was expected to see a tremendous explosion, but that didn't happen. Instead, it moved from 46 to 53.3. It rather grew with 7.3 million addition instead of 10, which happened 10 years prior. What do you make of it? Is it because of economic hardship around the world that's causing the slow rate of population growth, or systematic program machinery that is set in place to reduce it? What do you make of it, ladies and gentlemen? Let me hear from you in the comment section. Now, whether you are a Kenyan or a doubter, don't take my word for it. Go on the internet and do your own findings. When you do so, you have two divergent sets of publications. One group, which includes many international websites, have published this story of the 8 years long contraceptive as true. And the other group have also published or insisted that this whole story is false information. But if you have been watching, ladies and gentlemen, if you have been watching Bill Gates and what he has been saying for the last 2 decades about population reduction among poor African and Indian families, you might see some merit to it. So do your own research on this. We have to get this information out. And let's hear from you in the comment section. You see, this man, Bill Gates, has always made it clear, whether on TED conferences or on TV interviews, that the world will be better off with a smaller population. And he doesn't say this targeting Western countries. That is my problem. The world will be better off with smaller population targeting Africa. He's looking at us. Just watch this video.
This is a very important question to get right, because it was absolutely key for me. When our foundation first started up, it was focused on reproductive health. That was the main thing we did, because I thought, population growth in poor countries is the biggest problem they face. You've got to help mothers who want to limit family size have the tools and education to do that. And in 2 of my favorite speeches, I actually showed that unbelievable correlation that population growth has gone down. Today, where is there high population growth? It's in the places with the worst health conditions, northern Nigeria, northern India. And so the two problems go exactly hand in hand. If we improve health rapidly, we will get the peak population to be as much as 1 billion below the current expected peak. That is about 8.3 billion versus 9.3.
Very fishy and worrying for me. He's actually interested in everything that directly impacts human life, directly impact population control and continuity. His investment through one of his companies called Cascade Investment LLC has been buying most of farmlands in America, especially farmlands that has the biggest rivers flowing through them. Take a look at this picture, for instance. That's how much farmland he owns right now. He has invested billions in GMO seeds and now owns farmlands and wants to control human population. I mean, what is it all about, ladies and gentlemen? Help me make sense of this. I researched on whether Cascade or Gates Foundation own lands in Africa, and the answer came out negative. Ladies and gentlemen, who knows the plans he has for Africa? I love the idea of providing better health care for women and mothers. I believe it is a good cause, but the idea of reducing or slowing down the population of the earth, targeting Africa, is something no human being should support. People have the right to choose the size of families to have. There are more than enough resources on this earth to take care of a double of all the people in the world right now. Nobody has the right to determine how many kids one must have. That's a communist ideology. That's a socialist and controlled world. That's not what I'm about. I don't know what you're about. That's something I don't support, and you shouldn't as well. Let's hear from you in the comments, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Cyrus, and remember to subscribe if today is your first time watching me. I'll see you in the next one very soon. It is bye-bye for now.